Okay, so hi again. Welcome to your Zoom class for HSB. I know a lot of you all are probably already familiar with the app. Again, it is just like a regular class. You listen to the lecture. Of course, you all will be given time where you can ask questions. I will let you all know when. So you all could use the option to raise hand and you all could type the message. Again, mics mute. We don't want to hear anybody pump or anything back in the background or anybody television set on, so that you all can clearly hear me and understand this topic, because again, this topic is something that is happening in the world right now. So the topic that we are going to discuss, let me just go on full screen. Full screen slideshow. Okay. And again, you all feel free to jot down any notes. This presentation will be sent and it will be photocopied for you all. We will let you all know when to come in and collect the copies. So this is disease and its impact on humans. This is just the objectives on which this presentation will be based on. Firstly, again, we will look at key terms. So we have to understand little terms like what is health, what the term health means, what is a disease, what is the definition of a disease. We have to be able to classify diseases because there are a range of diseases. Right now, I'm sure when you put on the television, you hear corona, but it have millions of diseases, in fact. Also, you have to be able to differentiate what is the difference between a sign and a symptom. All right? Because if doctors were to ask, you should be able to know what exactly is a sign and a symptom. Also, two terms that you see on televisions, on billboards, is something called acute and chronic diseases. So you have to know you have to be able to give examples, and you have to be able to differentiate what these terms mean. Now, you all were given an assignment where you have to make a brochure of diseases, which I assigned you all to do. Now, that is still in effect. As a matter of fact, I sent a message where you all were supposed to email me the brochure instead. Now, today was the actual day where you all had to present in class. Unfortunately, we cannot do that, but I have something in store for you all to actually present it, even using the Zoom application. So those who have the brochures, please email me the hard copy of it so I could judge based on the information that you all presented. I'm going to show you all one in which group 6 sent. So just that you all could see what I meant. And by the way, when you all are sending me this brochure, make sure and indicate in the email which group you belong to, the group members, and indicate this is the HSB project. So the brochure is 3 pages. You have the front, and then you have the back. I'm hearing someone's mic right now.
Juliet, you have the ability to mute the mic as well, so you could go ahead and mute it and they can hear it.
Let me see. So I'm seeing 19 participants. So far, everybody mute. Yeah, so far everybody mute. Good. Right, like I was saying, this is an example of a brochure. Group 6 submitted theirs already. You all have till Saturday to submit your brochures to me. Next week, Tuesday, you all will be given an opportunity, like let's say 10 minutes per group. I will allow your mics to be unmuted and you all will present your disease. All right? So this is just a little example of one. And again, this will be folded into 3 parts. So this will be the front and this will be the back. All right, so back to the presentation now. Right, so again, just like what you all had to do for the brochure, I am going to explain what causes the disease, the symptoms, the treatment of it or control of the disease, preventative measures as well. We are going to look deeply into asthma, how it affects the respiratory tract. We're going to look at a lot of STDs, lifestyle disease, and we are going to look at the impact of diseases on the human population as well, which we are clearly seeing up to this day. Okay, so let's start with the definitions first. So the term health, when someone is deemed healthy, doesn't just mean that they are physically healthy. It means that they are mentally, socially, and physically healthy. So it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This was actually a definition by the organization called World Health Organization. So good health. How do we have good health? Basically, you need to have a balanced diet. You need to have plenty of rest. You need to drink a lot of water, exercise, take the necessary supplements, try at all costs to avoid stress. Now, the term disease, it's a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that produces specific symptoms or that affects a specific location, and it is not simply a direct result of physical injury. Now, disease is a very broad term, and there are a range of categories. And not only does it affect humans, there are diseases that affect plants. And there are diseases that starts with an animal, and then it can be transferred to humans. All right. Now, the two broad categories where we could classify a disease is based on if it is able to spread, which is communicable, or if it is not able to spread, which is non-communicable. Now, the disease that is going on right now is what you call a communicable disease. This means that it can be passed on from one organism to the next. As a matter of fact, it started with the animals. They actually narrowed it down to bats, where the bat had the disease, the coronavirus, and that was spread to a human from direct contact with blood. So the blood of the bat basically contaminated the skin of a Chinese worker in one of those markets in that town called Wuhan, and that is how the virus was able to penetrate and enter the worker's respiratory tract. And from then on, that person now, when they cough or sneeze, the liquid droplets would have been transferred to the next individual, and that is how it spread. So these are different ways in which pathogens like viruses can be spread. It can be by the air. It can be direct contact, which basically someone open a doorknob and then someone else touch it, they get it. It can be in the water, like for instance, sometimes if you turn on the tap and you see it coming out a kind of brownish color, obviously don't drink it because it will contain a lot of pathogens in it. Or you could simply just eat something that is bad. For instance, something that is not prepared in a sanitized manner. Pathogens can live in food as well. and sexual contact, which actually brought up a whole range of diseases. It formed its own category, which is called STDs, and there's a subdivision, which is STIs, which we will also talk about. Now, the two types, the major range of communicable diseases is what you call infectious or pathogenic diseases. There's two names. Like I said, HSV have two names for everything. These diseases are called infectious or pathogenic diseases. Whereas the non-communicable ones, which cannot be spread, so let me say, let me see. Let me say Huda had, let me say he had sickle cell anemia. It's not like if he sneezes, Alfaro will get it. All right, so these are what you call hereditary, physiological, and deficiency diseases. Now, we actually did a lot of those deficiency diseases. When you look at your nutrition notes, deficiency means you are deficient or lacking a particular nutrient. So the examples of the diseases which we talked about was rickets, scurvy, iron deficiency anemia, beriberi, and to name a few. And a few weeks ago, even before your midterm, we actually spoke about some hereditary diseases, because genetic diseases was one of the topics you all learned in section C of the syllabus. That would have been things like albinism, sickle cell anemia, as well as hemophilia. So once someone has a faulty gene, it can be inherited from your parents. Physiological disease, we sort of touched these when we did circulatory system. Physiological has to do with the functioning of the organs now, like lifestyle types of diseases. So that would have been like those heart diseases which I've mentioned: coronary thrombosis, arteriosclerosis, hypertension, which we will also go more in depth in this presentation. So again, the categories of the diseases, you have the physical or the physiological disease. This is when you have a malfunction of an organ. And how does the organ become malfunction in the first place? Not taking care of the body. So it's lifestyle habits that damage the body. And one of the main contributors of that is unbalanced diets. Also stress. Number two, which is infectious, which we will talk mostly about. We will look at typhoid, we will look at influenza, cholera, tuberculosis, and most of the STDs. So infectious diseases are what you call the communicable ones, which can be spread. And these, we will actually pinpoint which causes the infection in the first place, which is a term that you all learned, which is microorganisms. And you're seeing on the table right now, the different kinds of microorganisms you have is viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoan, even something called nematodes, which you don't know about, and insects. Insects is a deadly one. The celebrity, what's his name? Someone got bitten by a tick, and they have Lyme disease. Actually, it's Selena Gomez. I'm thinking of one of them. Anyways, deficiency is when you're lacking or you have too much of a particular nutrient in the diet. So we already looked at kwashiorkor, marasmus, scurvy, all of those, goiter. Now you all have to remember what it is the person is lacking. Like for instance, kwashiorkor, marasmus, that's when the person lacking protein. Scurvy, that is vitamin C. Rickets, lacking vitamin. So somebody will tell me, maybe in a message, if you have rickets, what vitamin are you most likely lacking? Let me see if anybody figured that out. because I don't want to ramble on. I want to hear from you all. So I will repeat the question. If someone is suffering from rickets, which vitamin will be deficient in the diet? So let me see. Very good, Raphael. It's vitamin D. And Emily. Oh, I'm now seeing a message from Emily. Okay, I will have to check my junk folder because I haven't received anything from you all yet. Okay, moving on. Inherited diseases is also known as genetic diseases or disorders. Now, number 5 is something called degenerative disease. As you get older, naturally, your body is going to degenerate or weaken. So that is when the organs and tissues wear away. So examples is like arthritis, hearing and side effects, gout. Now, number 6 and 7, we don't really need to know these. Actually, number 7, we looked at social diseases, which would have been drug abuse and drug addiction, and that was discussed already. Mental, that type of disease do not pertain to your syllabus. Okay, moving on. Right, so the broad terms, acute and chronic diseases. This is another way in which you could identify or classify a particular disease. So acute disease is something that is short term. For example, the common cold, you get it, you might be down for 2-3 days, you recover and you're back to normal. Chronic disease is more long term or lifelong diseases. So those tend to be like diabetes and so forth. Acute diseases, you can treat it. Chronic, you have to live with it. However, you can take certain medications to control it, control the signs and symptoms of it. All right, so something that is very common, I know some of you all suffer from this. This is something called asthma, which is a type of respiratory disease. And it is an example of a chronic disease because it's a lifelong or long-term type of disease. Now we will talk exactly what is asthma, how it is caused, what the signs and symptoms. All right. So basically, asthma is when the lining of the tubes carrying air into the lungs become inflamed. Now when we do the respiratory system, all you already know is the lining of the tubes. What are the tubes? Starting from, let me say, after the nose, what are the tubes that lead to the lung? Again, what are the tubes that lead to the lung? Send out a message to answer. Place quiet while like nobody revising respiratory system. So basically that, okay, I getting some answer. Bronchi is an answer, very good. Bronchi, and what is, from the bronchi, what it is branch off into? Bronchioles, right? Nathan, very good. Raphael got it again. Alveoli is at the tip of the bronchiole. So, however, it's not described as a tube. It is described as an air sac. So we're looking at the tubes that is bring the air to the lung. So definitely bronchi and bronchiole. And you could also make mention of the trachea. What is another name for trachea, by the way? Anyone? Nobody? windpipe. I feel like it's only Raphael and a few people listening, you know. What are you rest doing? Come on, I want some participation from the rest of students. It's not just about 4. Running out of time. Let's meet. Lyndon. Excuse Lyndon. This first time I see something like that. I hope it just don't end like in
Yeah, same thing was happening in OA. Well, not OA.
Did it
EDPM.
cut off?
Yeah, at the end of the timer it cuts off. Lyndon usually waits until it reaches 2 minutes to reset the session.
Oh, so I could start over as soon as it cuts off.
Yeah.
All right, and thanks for the info. Let me go back to the presentation then. I know not everything free is be good. All right. Okay, so we understand that the bronchioles, the bronchi, as well as the windpipe that brings air to the lungs become swollen. So the term inflamed means swollen. The muscles in the wall of the tubes is going to contract, making them narrower. So if them tubes get narrow, less air is going to be transported to the lung. And that is why the person will start to wheeze, they will have difficulty breathing, they will have what you call bronchospasms. Now, that is one part of asthma. The next thing that is starting to happen, you have something called goblet cells now, which I have already mentioned. This is a specialized cell, which is found in the trachea and the bronchi. And the purpose of that cell is to make something called mucus. Mucus is a thick fluid, a thick, thick, and that will actually trap any dust, smoke or any foreign substances from entering the lung. It actually protects the lung. Now, when you have asthma, it is make more mucus because they're trying to, the lungs itself trying to prevent further damage, But while making too much mucus, it is actually prevent you from getting oxygen. Okay, so causes of asthma. One of the main causes is something called air pollutants. Pollutants is something that causes pollution, and these types of contaminants is carried by the air currents. So those tend to be very minute and light. So that's like dust, smoke, particulates. Also, someone can be born with asthma. So it is also what you call a genetic disease. So not only is it a chronic disease, it can also fall under the category inherited or genetic diseases. Because if someone in your family has asthma, then there is a chance that you could actually inherit that faulty gene. So you can be born with asthma, or in life, you can develop asthma, especially if you're exposed to a lot of environmental pollutants. So if you're living next to like a quarry or something, or you're living close to a factory that has a lot of dust, like the cement factory, then chances are you can actually develop asthma. All right, treatment of asthma. Now, some of you all is work with your little inhalers and stuff. And that's very important because when you get an asthma attack, you need to have that very handy and you need to take a puff. So that little inhaler, what it does, like for instance, the steroids one. Now this one is a little different. This one has to be taken regularly. And it is something that acts very slowly, but has a longer effect on the body. This will reduce the activity of the immune system in the bronchi and the bronchioles. So what that means, if you take this regularly, it will kind of prevent the lung from, it will basically prevent the body from making too much mucus. Now, mucus is good, but too much is bad. The next one is the beta agonist. Now, this is when the person having an actual asthma attack. They're going to take a puff, take a deep breath in. And what that does is it's going to make the muscles in the bronchi and the bronchioles relax so that that tube opens up. Now, when what I mentioned is asthma is when those tubes, the bronchioles, the bronchi becomes swollen, the inside. When you take this puff, it is actually going to cause it to relax so that it can, the pathway can actually open up. And once that pathway is open up, then you can breathe better. Okay. Other chronic diseases now. Again, these are lifelong, long-term diseases. Some of them you can be born with it, unfortunately, or you can develop it. Another classic example of that is diabetes. Diabetes is a condition where the body is unable to regulate the concentration of blood glucose levels. And that's because the pancreas itself fails to secrete enough of the hormone insulin. And there are two kinds of diabetes, by the way. There's type 1 and type 2. Now, right, so type 1 is also known as insulin dependent diabetes. This one is a severe form of the disease, and this one you could actually be born with it. So this one is, it starts early in the life of someone. So it can be caused by the destruction of the insulin producing cells, the pancreas, and the cell that is responsible for producing insulin. Now, you don't have to actually know the name. However, you have to understand what insulin does. Now, if you recall, when we did the endocrine system, I actually mentioned that the hormone insulin actually takes glucose and turns it into glycogen. Now, reason being, you can't have too much glucose in the blood. You need to store the glucose in one spot. So what will happen is that hormone is going, after a meal, you're going to have a high level of glucose in the blood. So the insulin will travel, take that glucose, carry it to the liver, and store it as something called glycogen. So when you really need the energy, you're done in a storage unit. Someone who has type 1, however, don't have that insulin. The insulin is not being produced, so therefore that is why they have high blood glucose levels. Treatment is basically injecting yourself. You take the insulin shots, or you can take it in a tablet form. Type 2 diabetes, these are non-insulin dependent diabetes. This one usually starts later in life. Now, I forgot to mention, for type 1, this one can be inherited. So if someone in the family again has diabetes, chances are you could inherit that faulty gene. So you are born with it. And in type 2, this one can be caused from your diet. So if it is your custom eating, late in the night eating a set of ice cream and cake, or you have a lot of, carbohydrates in your diet, slowly you can develop type 2 diabetes. All right. Now, this is also, it has the same effect. The insulin, again, blood glucose levels can be controlled by weight loss. So you can actually control this form of diabetes by losing weight and changing the diet. Or you could even take medications which could actually cause the pancreas to start producing more insulin. Now this one, you are producing insulin. It's not like you don't have insulin. However, the insulin that you have is not working. And that's because your diet had a part to play in that. Because you were eating so much sugary foods and you had so much glucose in your blood, the insulin got confused. And now turn it on there.
All right, then, thanks. So
So I
whenever
guess
it stops, if ever it stops again, just turn back on the recording, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Right. So the second phase is weak pulse, confusion, delirium, sore abdomen, diarrhea. Treatment. You take now anything that is caused by bacteria. There are a range of antibiotics you can purchase. Well, they have to be prescribed firstly. This is what you call a prescription drug from a doctor, and you take it as recommended. Now, since typhoid has caused a lot of diarrhea, you lost a lot of body fluids, so therefore you're going to be drained and very weak. So therefore you have to take drips, or you could take those oral solutions, which you could also purchase in a pharmacy. And typhoid is a disease that has vaccines available. So if you know that you are living in an area that doesn't have proper sewage system, you don't have clean running water and so forth, then you should become vaccinated. And typhoid is basically seen in countries that are poor because they don't even have those things in place. Luckily for us, we have WASA. So typhoid is not seen in this country. Now, in terms of like, let me say that flood and those things, it can reappear. So I'm seeing that it's going to end in the next 10 minutes. So when it stops, like I said, we're gonna break. We're gonna break up 15 minutes and then we return. So when it's 2:20, we will return. I will automatically join back the meeting and you will join the meeting and follow through. Let me do one more disease. So after typhoid, we have, let me close this off. We have tuberculosis, which is also known as TB for short, because some of you cannot spell. This one is also caused by a bacteria. It is transmitted by breathing in little droplets of moisture. So the liquid droplets, when somebody cough and sneeze, if you breathe that in through your mouth or your nose, it will slowly reach the lung where it will cause the infection. So the symptoms are you have coughing with blood, chest pain, you lose weight, loss of appetite. Preventative measures, stay away from people who are coughing, obviously. That is why they come up with this whole thing with social distancing. You could even wear the face mask if you know you have to be around crowds. Now, I have to talk a lot about this face mask. Clean the area, keep the area sanitized, wash the hands, so forth. And like I said, these diseases have vanished, but they can reappear if conditions are unsanitized. So there is vaccination available. If you know you may be in contact with the virus, it's important to become vaccinated. Now, if you're sick, it is advised not to take the vaccine. You have to be healthy when you take the vaccine. Because if you're sick, you could actually cause more damage to yourself. Right, so I'm gonna see how well I could do cholera. I'm not sure when it's going to cut off. Oh, actually I'm seeing remaining meeting time, 7 minutes, so I could do that. Cholera, another pathogenic disease caused by bacteria again. Bacteria is the culprit, but the thing with these bacterial diseases is you could treat it. The viral ones, harder to treat. Oh gosh, I've gone all the way back. Oh Lord. Okay, cholera. Right, so this one again, you can get it from contaminated food or water. So if you're not living in those poor countries China, India, all of those countries, they tend not to have potable water. Their food is unsanitized. You know, the sewage system is not intact. You have the sewage draining into rivers and seas, and it actually it come in contact with your pipe water as well. So when you open the pipe, you see brown water coming out. You can get cholera from that. Symptoms are you have watery diarrhea, very watery, like liquid, vomiting, abdominal cramps, you have very cold skin, weak pulse, and you're very dehydrated due to the loss of body fluids from the diarrhea. And you cannot stomach anything. If you feel to eat, the minute you have food in the stomach, you're going to throw it out or throw up. So this is just some information about it. We will go through ways in which you can make water clean and potable, ways to treat it. Again, this one, however, the treatment is basically you just have to take oral rehydration solutions or drips. And over time, your body will fight that bacteria on its own. If it is that you are not able to get these body fluids back into the body, you can weaken and eventually it can become fatal. All right. So it has caused a lot of deaths, as you can see, 100,000 annual deaths, because there are still, up to this day, a lot of countries that don't have access to potable, clean water and even food. Very sad to say. So I'm going to ask some questions in the remaining time, because just 4 minutes. Okay. Who could tell me the main difference between a bacteria and a virus? Any difference at all? What is the difference between a bacteria and a virus? Okay, so there are some good bacteria. All viruses are bad. Okay. But tell me something about the actual structure. What is difference in the shape of the cell or the structure of it? Let me pick somebody to answer, because some people like they just have it running and like I know they on WhatsApp or something. Every virus needs a host. Yes. A virus needs a host to survive. So if a virus is left outside of a host, like on the door handle or the road or something, it have a time frame which it will die. Now the coronavirus lasting a couple days outside of a host, that will make it so deadly. Well, so communicable. But I want to hear something about the structure. Nobody is talking about structure, so I'm going to show you all that again. We're going back to term 1. Week 1. Right, this note, because apparently you all can't remember. Right, so this is the virus here. Right, so maybe I could get a nice picture online. Virus versus bacteria. Image. Right, I've seen a nice picture. So nobody was able to tell me this. I'm sure you all seen this picture here. So please let me know before we go on a break. Let me hear from Jesse. I think Jesse online. Bacteria is unicellular. Well, first thing again, that doesn't classify a virus as cell because this is something that need a host to live. A bacteria could live outside of a host, by the way. All right, well, I have to say, because nobody seems to know, bacteria have a tail, virus don't have a tail. So that is the main difference in structure. Bacteria could swim. The virus have this kind of protrusion, this kind of spike. This is what is actually anchor onto your cell, invade your body cells, and enter your body. Another difference, since we at it, is it have about 3 different layers. You have the capsule layer, the cell wall, plasma membrane. Whereas this one only have proteins around it. A lot of proteins that surround it. Yeah, Emily is right. Bacteria has a cell wall and virus does not. Very good. Waiting for you all to come back from a break. Now feel free, you all could have a snack, drink your water, drink your tea, and listen. But there are certain things that might be same that you all should just write down and jot down. Again, when I'm finished with this, I'm going to correct the drug abuse past papers. Let me just show you all that document in case you all were wondering. We will be correcting these past papers. We'll be going through them. Each one of you all, I sent this already, and you all can see it on screen as well. So, no excuses. Now, this handout is already made for you all. It's just a matter of going into the school and collecting it. I'll let you all know when you all can do so. As of now, we're using notes online. Right, so we finished typhoid, tuberculosis, cholera. We reached something called ringworm. Ringworm is not caused by a worm. It is actually caused by a fungus. A fungus is another type of unicellular and microorganism. Now, how does the fungus even enter the skin is when you have little cuts and bruises and you're exposed to dirty water, flood water, or any contaminated water, the fungus can enter this opening of the skin, grow, and multiply again. Now, this one tends to form a kind of ring-like structure. It loves damp and warm areas. So you see under the armpits, in the groin regions, between the toes, those are areas in which ringworm can form. And also, it can be spread from one person, hence the reason it is a type of communicable infectious or pathogenic disease. So for instance, if someone has ringworm, they can actually, if someone shares a towel or hair combs, it can be spread from one person to the next. Also, if the person scratched the area under the nail beds, they can have the fungus, and that can all, and if they touch you or touch a doorknob or so forth, it can be spread in that manner as well. The symptom, or actually there should be signs. The sign is a ring-shaped, reddish, scaly, itchy patch on the skin. So this is visibly seen. The treatment is very simple. Well, you have to prevent scratching it in the first place. So you can use some kind of calming lotion. And also most of those calming lotions tend to have antifungal medication in it. This would target the fungus and stop it from spreading and multiplying in the skin. Next, vectors of disease. Now, a vector is something which just houses the disease causing organism. So a vector does carry pathogens, in other words. So viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa tends to live in the body of a vector. And a vector is a number of animals, in fact. You have bats that spread rabies. Rabies is caused by a virus. So the virus that lives in the bat does actually cause the rabies, not bats that cause rabies. Bats just help spread rabies because it contains the virus that spreads it or causes it. Rats now, those are common vectors or pests. They spread leptospirosis. This occurred a lot when they had the flood, and this is caused by a bacterium. The term bacterium is singular for bacteria. Bacteria is a plural term. Houseflies, this carry bacterium as well in their sucker, in the mouth parts, or in their feet. So if you have housefly land on your food or contaminate your food in some manner, and you were to eat that contaminated meal, you'll be ingesting and consuming the bacterium, and that could cause gastroenteritis. This is called, you see, gastro and lepto. If untreated, it can be deadly. Gastro is also called food poisoning. This one is also acute, depending on the bacteria that you ingested. So some of them tend to be very, very dangerous and can cause severe diarrhea and severe vomiting. And when it's severe, you can actually lose a lot of body fluids in that aspect. The mosquitoes now, you have a lot of mosquitoes around. We live in a tropical climate, so the eggs and the life cycle tend to be very quick in tropical climates. The Aedes aegypti, they spread dengue, and the protozoan, which lives in the mosquito, is what causes the disease. Protozoan, again, is another type of unicellular organism. We did not have to learn the structure of this one, but I want to show you all how a protozoan is look. Okay. So speaking of the life cycle of the mosquito, it's a very fast-paced stage where the adult will lay the egg. Now the egg, the larva, and the pupa, sorry, 1, 2, 3, they tend to live in the water. The adults tend to live in bushes, drains, damp, warm environments. The eggs are laid in colonies or rafts, or some of them could be single eggs. They are laid in stagnant water, so drain water, or nothing that is flowing like rivers and seas. So it most likely, like if you have some container outside without a lid, or barrels that collect in rainwater, that is a area in which the adult mosquito will lay the egg. And bear in mind, it's the female mosquito that lays the egg. So the next stage, it grows into something called a larva, which also lives in the water. It's suspended from the surface. So sometimes you see it when it floats on water. They breathe through a little tube that extends out into the surface or the top of the water. And they grow in shape, in length, and then their bodies now will turn into this pupa stage. Pupae is plural, by the way, and this one also lives in water, and eventually it will emerge and rupture and grow out of the structure, which is now the adult mosquito. And the cycle repeats itself. It lasts for approximately 1 week. I'm seeing a question. Carries pathogen from one host to another. Yes. Okay, so two very common diseases caused by mosquitoes, or I should say caused by protozoan, which is carried by mosquitoes, are dengue and malaria. Dengue, firstly, is spread by the Aedes aegypti. Malaria is spread by the, let's go back, Anopheles mosquito. So it's two different species of the mosquito. Huh? So don't fret when the mosquito bite you, getting the disease. And bear in mind, it's the female mosquito that is carrying the disease causing agents or organisms. All right. So for dengue, it's transmitted by the bite of an infected Aedes aegypti, usually during the day. Now the term incubation, the incubation period is when the protozoan itself or the pathogen multiplies in the body. So there's a time frame in which when the actual protozoan enters the body, it takes some time where it multiplies and causes the infection after, which causes the disease. So for this one, it's 4 to 5 days incubation time, and then you start seeing the symptoms. So sometimes when you get infected, you may be asymptomatic, meaning you're not showing the symptoms just yet because the pathogen have not multiplied, and it takes some days to actually multiply to show the symptoms. Why does this have okay? Symptoms. It causes a lot of fever. It causes headache, bone pain. Diagnosis. So diagnosis refers to how you detect it. It could basically be done through a chemical process where now a blood test, a simple thing like blood tests, instead of saying chemical process, a blood test can be able to diagnose or tell if you were infected by the dengue. Malaria. Malaria is not very common in the Caribbean. However, malaria is seen a lot in the African countries. Some of the cause now, it is caused by, again, let's go back to the table. It is caused by a protozoan, but it is carried by the Anopheles mosquito. Right. So by the female Anopheles mosquito, just bear in mind, these kind of things will come in multiple choice, by the way. They will ask, okay, what kind of mosquito does cause malaria? Male Anopheles, female Anopheles, male Aedes aegypti, you know. So these are so nitty-gritty notes. This come in multiple choice. Right, the malaria mosquito usually attacks in the night. So that is a difference there. The incubation period, or the time in which the protozoan is going to multiply in the body, is 10 to 15 days, where it will now start to display symptoms. So sometimes when you get a bite from a mosquito, you didn't realize, like a week later when you start to feel sick, you didn't realize it was a mosquito that actually transmit the pathogen into your body. Malaria fever keeps reoccurring in shorter duration and is accompanied with other symptoms like joint pain, vomiting, sweating, anemia. How do you recognize or diagnose that you have malaria? You take some, like let's say, you take some samples like for instance, you could take from the actual vomit. You can take blood samples again, and you just view the sample to see if you have the virus in the body. Now, the life cycle of the housefly is very similar to the life cycle of the I seen a question. Let me answer this question from Emily. Miss, how much worse is malaria than dengue? Both of them is not deadly. Dengue, if you keep getting it repeatedly, it can become deadly. Because what dengue does, it actually lowers the platelet level in the body. And platelets is responsible for blood clotting. So if you have less platelets in the body, it can actually cause another damage, which is prevent blood clotting from being formed. Malaria is actually a good thing in certain countries. For instance, malaria, people who have sickle cell anemia in particular is less likely to get malaria. Now, the thing is, these things are treatable once detected early. So once you realize the symptoms and you go get yourself checked out and diagnosed properly, you just have to take out a rest. You see, dengue in particular too, they say boiling the pawpaw leaves and drinking that can get rid of the protozoan. And I think for malaria, I'm not sure. But these things again is just, you just have to take a lot of rest, drink a lot of fluids, and it's not that bad. Next slide. Right, so this life cycle of a housefly is very similar to the mosquito in that you will have an adult fly. The housefly will then make its eggs. And look at how much it produces, by the way. That is why it's so hard to get rid of it. It's approximately 600 to 900 eggs per laying time. All right, and it's in batches. Fly, okay, so the eggs, when it is hatched, it turns into larvae, also called maggots, by the way. So sometimes when you leave your garbage for long and flies get into it, they lay the eggs in the garbage. They like to lay eggs in garbage, in dirty drains, clogged drains, in cesspits and latrines. The larvae, sometimes when you leave a garbage, you start to see little white worm-like creatures. That's the larvae or the maggots. And then when they grow, they turn into a pupa. The shape is different than the mosquito, but it's the same name, pupa. And then eventually, a housefly will emerge from the structure. And the cycle repeats itself. Okay, so gastro is caused by a bacteria which lives in the, you see this part of the mosquito, the mouth part? That is like a little sucker. So they tend to feed on food using this kind of sucking mouth part device. And that bacteria lives in this area. So some of the signs and symptoms of gastro is vomiting, abdominal pains, diarrhea. How to treat it? You drink lots of water, coconut water, Gatorade, Lucozade. But water is the key thing, huh? And then they take plenty rest. Eventually, it will wear out in the body. Your white blood cells will get rid of it, and you will recover naturally. Now, there are so much measures where humans should take to control the growth of microorganisms. Microorganisms are pathogens again, or unicellular organisms. They tend to multiply at a rapid rate because they don't need a partner. They don't need to find a mate or anything like that. It is one organism that could multiply and create hundreds in a couple hours. So that is why it's important to control them, because if you have a whole bunch of microorganisms and they actually cause diseases, then that could cause what is happening right now, which is the population, you know, they can have a lot of deaths. It can have a lot of outbreaks, disease outbreaks, or what you call a pandemic, where it spread worldwide. Now, a pandemic is what we are facing right now, because the coronavirus has spread to many countries in the world. it first starts off as an endemic, where it's only in a particular region, community. And when it starts to spread from community to community, or regionally, becomes an epidemic. And then slowly, if it spreads from different areas in the world or worldwide, it becomes a pandemic. So that is what happened to the corona. It started off in China, then it went to Italy, Iran, America, the Caribbean, and now we have it, you know, our little island, 5 cases already. And who knows, there are many more, because these things multiply and are easily spread. Okay, so how do we control it? Now, it's simple methods that we know standards take into account. Sterilization methods. The term sterilization have many meanings, but in terms of controlling microorganisms, it means to remove and destroy all of them. And there are many techniques you could use to get rid of them. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoan cannot live in high temperatures. So if you boil water at 100 degrees Celsius, leave it to cool, then you're less likely to get a disease like cholera and typhoid and those kind of things. Ultra heat treatment, or UHT, is used in a lot of grocery items. You see those products that is being sold in supermarkets and stuff, like cheese, milk. They are UHT treated, meaning that they heat it at a very high temperature, but for a very short time frames, because they don't want to destroy the food. They just want to kill the microorganisms and make it consumable. And when you consume it, you will not get sick from it. Another method is the autoclave. This is something like a pressure pot. It heats up. Basically, it's done under high pressure, and high pressure could cause microorganisms to die. And the last step, which requires high temperature, is pasteurization. And this is done a lot to milk. You know, when you're really packaging some of those milk containers, you see pasteurized milk. That's because they heat it at around 72 degrees for 15 seconds. Again, you're not going to heat it for long because you don't want to get rid of the good properties of the food products. You don't want to destroy the food, in other words. You just want to destroy the microorganisms using high temperature. Next one. Using chemicals is what we're doing right now in schools, companies, homes. Basically, you could use disinfectants to mop the flooring, the countertop, the desk, the bus rail, the door handle, so forth. So these are in surfaces. It kills bacteria, viruses as well, a lot of microorganisms. Chlorine could be used to treat water. So it kills bacteria and protozoa in water. WASA tends to apply chlorine, and it's a kind of, you know, you see it as, when they now apply it, if you open a pipe, you see like a white, cloudy water coming out. There's the chlorine in it, but it will settle, and the amount that they use will not cause any destruction to your body. However, it have an unpleasant smell and taste. They also add chlorine to pools, especially because swimming pools tend to have a lot of microorganisms living in it, because they have a lot of people entering the water and their body is bringing those microorganisms into it. Beaches as well have a lot of microorganisms in the water, because think of it. Look at how much people just go and bathe in the beach and river and cook and all kind of madness. Third one, antiseptics. Now, this one is to be used directly on the skin. So, for instance, if you get a bruise or cut or something, you want to clean up that area because you don't want bacteria entering the cut. So antiseptic will just keep it clean from microorganisms until a blood clot forms. Next one, antibiotics. These are medications, over-the-counter, prescription drugs, which is used to kill bacteria alone and stop them from multiplying. And then another one which you can purchase from pharmacies is antifungals. This one you don't require prescription. They tend to be over the counter and are very easy to treat once applied as recommended. It could be in the form of a cream, an ointment, and so forth. Now there's something that is happening in the world, something called antibiotic resistance. And this is what actually causes a lot of bacteria to form. A lot of what they call strains of bacteria. So you might have a bacteria A, and that bacteria could develop into a new form or a new strain. Let me say A1, which could be even more deadlier than A. And then A1 could develop into A2, A2 could develop into A3. And how does antibiotic resistance cause this is because first to begin, your body will have the bacteria, right? Like this picture here. And there's always that one bacteria that is stronger than the rest. So let me say all of this was bacteria. Let me say this was A. The name of this bacteria is A. This one would have been A1, meaning it's a strong version of that A species. So if you take the antibiotics and get rid of these, that particular one now is going to remain in the system if you don't take your antibiotics as prescribed. Because usually they tell you to take it for about 2 weeks, about twice or 3 times daily. And this one is not being affected by the drug. And if it is you not taking it as prescribed, you might encourage this one to keep growing in the body and multiplying. So let me say you take your antibiotics about 2 days and you still have this one in the body left. That one is going to multiply and multiply, forming a new strain, which is called the drug-resistant strain of the bacteria. And this one will take over and you will not be able to recover. You'll just remain sick. So that is why they have to keep making new drugs, new antibiotics to keep killing different strains of the bacteria, because the bacteria are becoming resistant to the effects of the drugs because it have a strong one remaining. All right. Simple measures is personal hygiene. Whether it be you're taking care of your mouth, you're taking care of your hair, you're taking care of your nails and skin, you're taking care of your clothing and cooking utensils. So what they're saying every day, by now, you know, during this presentation, you should have at least wash your hands during your break time, because you are touching your screens in your phone. You are touching your tablet screen, your mouse pad, your mouse, and lo and behold, you are even touching your face. So you are transferring a lot of germs from these devices onto yourself. And that is how you get the infection. Once they have an entry into your body, that is how the infection will start. So to remove them, you have to keep washing your hands, because your hands tend to be one of the dirtiest parts of the body because you're touching everything. Also, brush your teeth twice a day. Your mouth is a very, how to say, full of pathogens. Because remember, when you eat a meal, you're going to have a lot of food stuck in between the teeth. You're going to have the crevices in the mouth, in the gums. You're going to have a lot of bacteria invading those regions, and they remain in the mouth. That's hence the reason why you have a lot of bad breath after meals. So to remove them, you need to brush your teeth regularly, about 3 times a day, I would say. Clothing too. If you're sweating and you're in your clothes all day long, oil build up, that does cause bacteria and viruses to live on. and they multiply, and they love dirty clothing. Anything that is dirty, they love. So you need to wash it with soap. You need to let it dry. Wet clothes as well could attract them to it. Even if it washed and it is damp and not dried, it can cause bacteria to grow. That is why it has a foul scent. So anything that smells foul and dirty is an area where microorganisms are most likely surviving and multiplying. Simple thing like washing the hair, the scalp. You see the scalp does have a lot of flakes and dandruff. That is encourage a lot of microorganisms to grow. Food, food that is left in dishes and forks and spoons, those need to be washed out every single day. And obviously shower daily. Right. The last thing is something called immunity. Now we looked at this already, so I'll just kind of run through it again. Immunity. Okay, so I'll have to start over when this meeting ends. Now everyone has an immune system, which we have acquired either naturally or artificially. So there's something called natural and artificial immunity. And there's also something called active and passive immunity. Now your immune system basically comprises of your white blood cells. And when you are born, you are going to be born with some white blood cells, which was passed on from your mother. Now anything that is passed on to you, and it is not your own body, white blood cells, it is what you call passive immunity. So this is when you receive it from someone else or somewhere else. So you can receive it naturally from your mother through the breast milk and through the placenta, or you can receive it artificially. That is how you have something called anti-serums you can take. So antibodies received from a medication, example from injection or blood infusion. When you receive someone else's antibodies or white blood cells, that's what they call artificial passive immunity, because not your body created that in the first place. Why is it called artificial? Because that's a man-made product. Anytime you get something in an injection form or through surgery or through a pill or medication, that is an artificial product. Now, in the flip side, you have active immunity, which is your own body making it. So it develops in response to infection or vaccination. So naturally, when we are exposed to disease, pathogens like viruses and bacteria and so forth, your own body does make antibodies to fight it off. Now we are exposed to a lot of mild infections. Sometimes you fighting off an infection and you don't even know you're sick. You don't even feel it because your body is so equipped to fight it off in the first place. You don't even develop symptoms for it. So naturally you are making your antibodies to fight off pathogens. Now you can also develop this form of immunity artificially as well. Again, if you take it in an injection form or you purchase something in this type of manner, it is a man-made product. So that is why, okay, so vaccines or vaccination is basically made from a dead or weak form of the pathogen. So when you inject that into your body, it's going to basically create antibodies to fight it off. And that now will store in your body. So it's like a memory in the body that will be stored. So in case you are exposed to that same pathogen in the future, your memory, the memory cells that stored it will fight it off immediately. So you will not get sick. You will have mild symptoms. However, your body will fight it off faster than if it did not have it at all. Right, so that ties up immunity. So immunity could be active, which is your own body, which can be done naturally or artificially. Or you can actually receive immunity from somebody else or somewhere else. So naturally again and artificially. And I give the examples. Okay, so the last thing is the impact of disease on human population. So disease, if left to spread, can cause a serious effect on the population of humans. For instance, it can cause high death rate and mortality rates. So a lot of people can die from it, especially if you're not even able to treat it in the first place. If you don't have the necessary treatment, health services, it can cause a lot of deaths. Now, if you have a lot of people dying, it can have a decline in human development because you need manpower. You need humans to live to keep developing a nation. So if more people die, then less people working. And if less people working, all kind of social services will stop. Like what we're seeing right now, like schools, churches, banks. But luckily, we are living in an age where we have technology, and technology has allowed us to still maintain human development. However, it's not in every sector this is possible. Now, food prices start to increase. That is because a lot of people, what you're seeing right now, they're going and buy the toilet paper, they're going and buy the food, the items, because they know they have to stay home. And because of that, because there's such a demand and a race to the grocery to get these things, people hype up their prices. So all they see in hand sanitizer and then costing what price? A small bottle for $15. Imagine that. 2 squares and I finish. Right. Now, a negative effect, you have an increase in criminal activities. Now, you mightn't see it happening, but sooner or later, when you have a lot of diseases, a lot of people becoming infected, there will be the healthy ones who are trying to survive because they're realizing they, a lot of social services have halted. A lot of people, caught up in trying to save the ones that are infected. So they themselves, these healthy ones now trying to keep going. Now if jobs and stuff, if you have closure of a lot of companies and people not being able to work, how will they make money? People not getting to go out there and work. So what will happen now? They might have looting. So you see them grocery and thing when they close up in the night, you have people coming in, breaking down the glass, stealing. It have people robbing others who may have, little measures in place in their homes, little supplies. Now, some instances you might have decline in criminal activities, because a lot of people may be affected by the disease. Some of them will just keep more indoors, and more people indoors mean less criminal activities out in the streets. Also, there's a shortage of goods and services. So a lot of people, because they're going and purchase certain items, they will have shortage in it, which we are seeing. Like you can even get simple thing like alcohol, mentholated spirits. Those things are at a shortage right now. Services like you can't in certain areas you can't get a taxi. It have some power, electricity cutting in certain areas because people cannot go to work. So how they will be able to run the service? And also lack of social interactions. So because people are isolating themselves and social distancing themselves in large crowds, lineman areas, they're staying home more. All right, so let me just speed up because I have 1 more minute. Now, you will take down these past papers, right? I want you all to take down this because we're going to do some of them and prepare yourself now. That's the end of the presentation, by the way. Prepare yourself to answer these questions here. So I'm going to answer all these drugs past papers. Then I'm going to allow you all time to do these past papers on diseases. And we go through it. I will not be talking, only talking this time. Yes, I am aware of the timer. And so when I start back the meeting, we're correcting these questions here. Is that right? So back to the past papers now. So you all open your, or if you have it at hand, or if you can look at the screen. I want you all to do these questions. I'm going to mute my microphone now. And when I'm ready to correct, I'm going to ask you all, and you all will type out your answers and send me.
Maybe.
All right, so I give you all enough time. I'm gonna scroll down. Just to this part here, and then we'll correct this question entirely.
All right.
Okay, enough time. Let us correct. First, I'll ask if you have any
I do A.
Let's do 9A.
Can I do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Drug abuse is a common societal problem. Name 3 drugs which are commonly abused. I have heroin, cocaine, marijuana.
What's the first one?
Heroin.
Very good. So any 3 drugs, it could be the illegal or prohibited drugs, or it could be the prescription drugs or the non-prescription drugs. Okay, part B. What is the effective ingredient in alcoholic drinks? Come on, we have 14 people. Let me hear from Sophia. Now you can unmute your mic for this part if you're answering it. No, ethanol is the answer. Thank you, Alicia, Raphael, Emily. The answer for part B, part 1 is ethanol. Part 2, you can unmute your mic if you're answering that. Yes. Thank you, Sophia. It can cause a breakdown in family, relationships, loss of employment. Anything else? It can lead to family tensions or depression. Yes, it can lead to depression.
They could value the drugs over their own family.
Cause who?
They could value the drugs over their own family.
Which would lead to breakdown of the family, yeah. You gotta be a little more specific, eh?
Miss.
Emotional problems within the family, yeah. All of that.
Miss, it could lead to physical or verbal abuse.
Speak louder, please.
Physical or verbal abuse.
Physical or verbal abuse, yeah. Who said that?
Me, Emily.
Uh-huh. And then make out your voice. Okay,
Yeah, the mic kind of weird.
Uh-huh. Glad you all are listening. These 14 people, I have to commend you all. 15 people.
Yeah, thanks, Miss.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
I don't know who is the people. Who is Nokia?
Tanisha Mert's me.
Uh-huh. And Galaxy A7. Who's this, a robot?
Sumaya.
Oh, Samaya. All right.
If the people don't have an account, they join the whatever the name of the device they're on will show up.
Oh. Well, I know who's Mali Mali.
Is Mali Malmus.
Yeah, Mr. Huda. Well, since you have your mic on mute, explain how alcohol acts on the human body.
Okay. Well,
What an
alcohol.
interest slow?
Huh?
Interest slow?
Yeah, miss a little bit right. Connection problems.
By the way, when you all have the online classes, do go and sit down in Starbucks and steal the Wi-Fi. Yes? Say in a place where you have stable internet connection. Don't want to if your neighbor Wi-Fi and stuff.
Tom, you hear that, right?
Because they will cut off. All right, so let me go back to this notes here and go back
Miss,
to
doesn't alcohol like slow in movement and stuff like that?
right.
Miss, I could read my answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I have alcohol is absorbed into the bloodstream and it moves to all the parts of the body. It stays in the blood until the liver is able to break it down. High levels of alcohol in the body can lead to slowed breathing and loss of consciousness or even death.
Very good.
Excuse me, miss.
Uh-huh.
Can alcohol damage the liver?
It can damage the liver. It have a lot of effects, but they want to know how it damage who? Oh, right, the human body, right. So it slows down the body. It can cause cirrhosis of the liver. It can interfere with functioning of the brain, like the central nervous system. So it can cause loss of balance, slurred speech, delayed messages to the brain. So you can't.
Also loss of memory, miss.
Loss of memory, yeah, that's right. All right, scrolling down. Now, these were supposed to be finished for homework, so I'm not supposed to even give you all time.
Can I do the first one?
Yes.
Drug abuse is the overuse of a certain drug.
Overuse?
Of a certain drug.
Yeah. That's correct.
Miss,
Name
can I
two
answer?
commonly abused legal social drugs in the Caribbean.
Miss, wasn't it marijuana and like alcohol or something?
Marijuana, alcohol.
Marijuana and codeine or codeine. I don't know what to say it.
Cocaine? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh, they said legal. They say legal, don't forget that.
Oh, legal. Yeah,
Right.
well then alcohol and marijuana, right?
Yeah, so you can't say cocaine there.
No, miss, the one in the handout, the one in the PowerPoint. Codeine or codeine.
Codeine is illegal, but they say
Miss
legal in the
Raphael.
Caribbean.
Raphael, say caffeine and diet pills, miss.
In chat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct as well. Remember, those are legal things. B. A woman who smokes gives birth to a small baby who dies within 1 week of its birth. Suggest how smoking causes babies to be smaller than normal.
I want to say the nicotine affects the baby, but that's not very specific.
Cigarettes have multiple chemicals in it that are damaging to the human body, and if a mother takes that, the chemicals that are in the cigarette travel to the bloodstream of the mother, which travels to the bloodstream of the baby through the what do you call it, the placenta. And
very good.
For the baby, and because the baby's still growing, so it messes with the development, and that's how you get a deformed baby.
I like how Mama Dora talking now.
Miss, these online classes aren't helping me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna see if this stays like that.
And that's the thing. If it's recorded, then you have to repeat it too. Because when you're in class, is all kind of is either somebody somebody big head blocking or the AC too cold. So I'm glad you all enjoying the online class. Okay, next one. Nicotine passes across the placental barrier to the fetus. Describe the effect of nicotine now. So what nicotine does do to the infants? Or the baby?
Nicotine is needed to depress it, especially while it's while it's developing. So I'm not sure I don't know the exact effects of nicotine.
Yeah, you are correct. It increases the heart rate of the infant. It increases it leads to poor development of the baby, and it can also cause the baby to develop an addiction to nicotine. The baby could be born with an addiction. Yes, everyone so far is correct in the chat. Part 3. Name one other way in which nicotine may be passed to an infant from the mother.
Miss, through breast milk.
Secondhand smoke.
How breast milk
I don't know.
From secondhand smoke, yes. Very good, Nathan.
I say that too.
C. Suggest 2 effects of alcohol consumption on the fetus. Miscarriage and intellectual disabilities, poor development, stunted growth, low birth weight, a list of things. Breastfeeding is the recommended form of nutrition for babies. What form of immunity is passed from mother to the baby by breast milk?
I say calcium.
Yes.
No, what form of immunity? Meaning?
Passive immunity.
So let's go back to this chart here.
Passive immunity.
Passive what?
Immunity.
You're missing one more term here. So passive.
Immunity.
Passive immunity. We know it's immunity, but passive, natural or artificial?
Natural.
Natural, because mother. All right. Go ahead and do this one. Anybody? Let me get somebody to read. Let me see. Somebody who just quiet in the chat. Let me see.
You could choose Sophia.
Who? Sophia, yes. Let me hear Sophia. But Sophia's still typing. I ain't hearing from
I didn't have anything for that one, but I just leave it like medicine and I didn't finish it out, so that's the reason why I didn't type for that one.
Okay. Let's hear from one of the Alicias, Alfaro or Maloney. One of the Alicias will have to answer that. Okay.
Miss, can I answer instead?
Okay, you go ahead and do medicine. Emily, you are correct.
The 2 drugs that I use as medicines are Panadol for medicine and Escape from Reality is marijuana.
Well, they say 1 for medicine, you know.
Oh, 1 from.
They say 2 drugs that I use as medicine and 1.
Oh,
Read your question.
name 2 drugs that I use as medicines and 1 that is used to provide escape from reality.
Panadol is 1.
Right, Panadol is 1. Aspirin.
Aspirin.
And escape from reality can be marijuana or cocaine.
Yeah. The amphetamines as well.
For medicine, can insulin be one?
For medicine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Insulin. All right.
Insulin injection. Say the word insulin injection because they might think you're talking about a hormone.
All right.
Right? 3 social effects of continued abuse or misuse of drugs. And let's see how much marks. They say 3 marks and check how much lines. So you have to explain it thoroughly. So let me hear 1. Let me see. Yes. Sophia?
Miss, for that one, I had 3 social effects of the continued abuse or misuse of drugs referred to: A. People lose their families and homes due to emotional problems. B. Problems arise in communities because drug peddlers flock the area. And C. People act violent and look for fights.
Right. You see that B? You described that well. The first one you didn't explain too well. You need to go more in depth how that is caused. So Bala, when you say loss of job, you have to say, well, okay. The person loses their job because they are not able to cope and function in the workplace. Because of their addiction, they are leaving or showing up late to work, which will then cause them to lose a job. You can't just say loss of job, the end.
All right, Miss.
Yeah. One more with a thorough explanation.
Miss, like you lose your priorities, like the drug becomes like your only priority and like you kind of lose yourself.
Okay. Go on. Don't just stop there.
Like they'll spend all their money trying to afford that drug, and after they lose their job, they'll like do stuff like sell their body and stuff like that just to be able to pay for the drug. They'll do anything for the drug.
Right.
Miss, the drug can also make you mentally unstable towards towards how you generally act towards others. If you continue to take the drug, it can be an addiction, and you lose yourself towards, like, how to say it, mentally, and people will say, well, you can become mad, I should say.
Yeah, but remember, you have to be a little more clearer when you're explaining and describing. You can't just say it like the person becomes mad. You have to say, well, okay, due to the addiction, these individuals will slowly start to have a decline in their relationships, be it their family, and that will cause them to become isolated. And when they become isolated, they tend to feel more depressed. And when they feel depressed now, they have more urges and they abuse the drug more frequently. And because they are spending their money and their funds and it is getting lower and lower, then that could cause them to now live on the streets and so forth. Like the vagrants, what I was explaining. Homeless, a person sells everything to afford a drug due to addiction. Yes, that's good. Emily said violence in a home. Person addicted to drugs become violent and lashes out on others if they cannot get any more of the drugs or if someone won't allow them to take. Yes, these two are well. So when I say describe, you state your point and you have your description explaining it. like how these two did it. Well done. All right, so we kind of have like a half hour left and I want to do diseases. So this have to do with cigarette smoke. These others have to do with heroin again. I want you all to complete those, but let's move on to the disease ones. So I'm closing off this one. Don't forget to read your drugs handout again. I want to do some of the questions for disease. So, right, I have the past paper booklet on soft copy. You all have it on hard copy as well, so just turn to the past paper question. It was Jan 2014, paper 2, question 5. Right, so this one has to do with sterilization and stuff. Okay, so take our, let me say about a 10 minutes with this one. I'm sending the note for the diseases on WhatsApp one time. So when we cut off, I'm going to connect us back. When I reconnect the meeting, we corrected one time. Okay, so I think we can actually correct a few before time runs out. We could actually do question 5, these that are highlighted so far. So again, we're using the same approach. If you have an answer, please share it.
Miss, I have an answer for the first one.
Read the
State two
question too.
different. Okay. To reduce the chances of babies becoming ill, mothers often use sterilization and disinfection. State two differences between sterilization and disinfection. These are my differences. Um, Disinfection is the process of eliminating or reducing harmful microorganisms from inanimate objects and surfaces, while sterilization is the process of killing all microorganisms. Disinfection deals with adequate cleanliness, while sterilization deals with absolute or extreme cleanliness.
Full 4 marks. You all heard what he said? So disinfection is mostly inanimate objects like surfaces and stuff. Um, Sterilization is removing microorganisms as a whole. So not just surfaces, but it could be like skin, it could be hygienic practices as well. And the second thing that he said was sterilization is basically eliminating all microorganisms entirely. Disinfection is killing and controlling the microorganisms at a particular level or location. 2.
Miss, I have the same answer as Tom for the first one, so I wouldn't say over that. But for the second answer, I have sterilization can be used to sterilize baby bottles or toys that the baby may handle, and disinfection can be used to disinfect places the baby may need to be, such as changing table or crib.
That's a good answer, but I think your mic is it's a little low. But I heard the gist of what you were saying. Sterilization.
I'll
You can
type
type
it.
it as well, yeah. Sterilization is used in surgical operation while disinfection is commonly used in daily life. That's also correct, Sophia. Regan, sterilization uses heat to kill microorganisms. Very good. Disinfection uses chemical. So for instance, for part 2, sterilization would be like boiling the baby bottle in water. And disinfection would be like making sure the crib and items that they use are wiped with Clorox wipes and those kind of materials, those types of chemicals. So I actually provided 2 situations there. All right, so we can move on to part B now. Each time Shobha goes to the beach, she gets an ear infection. The doctor prescribes antibiotics for 5 days, but each time she stops taking the medication after 3 days when she is no longer in pain. Now Shobha finds that the antibiotics are not effective anymore. What is meant by the term antibiotic? Antibiotic is a medicine that prevents the growth of or destroys. Now, Raphael, you have to actually say microorganisms can mean many things. You have to say the term bacteria here. Antibiotic is only for bacteria, killing bacteria. That's the answer, not microorganisms. Because when you say microorganisms, you mean like viruses, protozoan, fungi,